If hunger had a sound, it would be the thin, fading cry of a baby too weak to scream. Rain pounded against the rusted zinc roof of the abandoned bus stop on Victoria Island, Lagos. If you're new to this channel, just subscribe now, and say it in the comment section. The wind howled like it was angry at the world, pushing cold sheets of water sideways into the narrow shelter where Amaka Okafor sat curled on a flattened carton. Her wrapper was soaked from the knees down. Mud clung to her feet. Her eyes were hollow, not from sleep, but from worry that had not allowed her rest in days. In her arms lay 6-month-old Chiamaka, wrapped in a once pink baby blanket that had long surrendered its color to dust and time. The child's lips were dry. Her tiny fists no longer waved in protest. She simply whimpered, a soft broken sound that cut through Amaka's heart like a blade. "Please, Neen, just hold on," Amaka whispered, rocking gently. "Mama will find something." But she had been saying that for 2 days. 2 days since Chiamaka last drank milk. 2 days since anyone stopped to drop even a 50 naira note into Amaka's trembling hands. Victoria Island was busy in the daytime, big cars, suited men, women with clicking heels and perfume that floated in the air, but when rain came at night, the streets became empty and merciless. A danfo splashed past, spraying muddy water onto the pavement. The driver did not slow down. No one ever did. Amaka tightened her hold on her baby and looked across the road. Through the heavy rain, glowing like something from another world, stood a mansion so vast it seemed unreal. Tall white walls crowned with security wires. Black iron gates polished to a mirror shine. Golden lights warming every window. Even through the storm, she could see silhouettes moving inside, people laughing, shadows passing with plates and glasses in hand. Chief Tunde Adeyemi's house. Everyone knew it. The real estate king. Owner of half the new estates in Lekki. A man whose name opened doors in Abuja and silenced rooms in Lagos. Inside that house was food. Warm rice. Chicken. Soup thick with meat. Milk for babies. Amaka swallowed hard. Once upon a time, she had worked inside buildings like that, not as a guest, never as an equal, but as a cleaner at St. Catherine's Private Hospital in Ikoyi. She used to arrive at 6 a.m. Mop corridors that smelled of antiseptic and hope, empty trash bins filled with disposable gloves and syringes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. She had a small one-room apartment in Ajagun. She paid her rent monthly. She even saved a little. Then Chiamaka fell sick at 3 months old. Pneumonia. The irony nearly broke her. A hospital worker unable to afford hospital bills. The management gave her 2 weeks off. Then the bills came. Oxygen. Medication. Admission fees. When she couldn't pay the balance, they deducted from her salary. When her absences increased because her baby needed constant care, they replaced her quietly. No argument. No warning. Just, "We are sorry, Amaka. We need someone more reliable." She lost her job. Then her room. And now here she was. Thunder cracked across the sky. Chiamaka flinched weakly. "Shush, it's okay," Amaka murmured, but her own voice shook. Her stomach cramped violently. She had eaten nothing since yesterday morning, a piece of gala someone had thrown away half-wrapped. She didn't care about her hunger. She could endure it. But the baby? A car slowed near the mansion gate. The security lights brightened automatically. The gate opened smoothly, silently. A black SUV glided inside like royalty entering its palace. Amaka watched the gate close again. Warmth. Light. Food. Safety. Her baby's whimper turned into a faint rasp. That sound changed something inside her. She looked down at Chiamaka's tiny face. The child's eyes were half open, unfocused. A frightening stillness had replaced the earlier restless cries. "No, no, no, no," Amaka breathed, panic rising. You will not sleep like this. Not like this. She stood up abruptly, clutching the baby tighter. Rain lashed against her face, mixing with tears she didn't remember starting. She paced the small concrete space under the bus stop roof, her mind racing in wild circles. Beg? There was no one left outside. Borrow? From who? Wait till morning? Could the baby survive till morning? Her eyes drifted back to the mansion. She imagined the kitchen. Big silver pots. Leftovers from a dinner party. Food that would likely be thrown away before sunrise. God forgive me, she whispered. I tried. The words tasted like surrender. Her father had raised her to fear theft like death itself. Your name is all you have, he used to say in their small village in Anambra. Once it is stained, it never washes clean. But her father was gone. Her mother too. There was no one left to call. No one left to ask. Only a baby whose breath was growing frighteningly shallow. Amaka adjusted Chiamaka against her chest and stepped out fully into the storm. The rain was cold, sharp against her skin, but she barely felt it. Cars were fewer now. The road between her and the mansion stretched wide and dangerous, but desperation made her brave. She waited for headlights to clear before dashing across, sandals slapping against wet asphalt. A horn blared somewhere in the distance, but she didn't stop. Reaching the tall gate, she pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding so loudly she feared the guards might hear it through the rain. She scanned the compound. The security post near the gate glowed faintly. 2 guards sat inside, their attention fixed on a small television. The storm had driven them indoors. The side fence near a flowering almond tree dipped slightly lower than the rest. She had noticed it before during her long nights at the bus stop. Just food, she whispered. Only food. Carefully, she moved along the perimeter wall until she reached the lower section. The concrete was slick. Moss clung to its sides. She shifted Chiamaka to her back, tying the baby securely with her wrapper the way her mother had taught her. The baby let out a soft sound but did not resist. Amaka wiped her wet palms against her skirt and reached up. The first attempt failed. Her foot slipped. She nearly fell. Please, Chinik, help me, she breathed. On the second try, she found a small crack in the wall where her toes could grip. She pulled herself upward slowly, muscles trembling from exhaustion. Rain streamed into her eyes. Her fingers scraped against rough cement, skin tearing slightly, but she did not stop. Halfway up, doubt clawed at her. If she was caught, it would be prison. Her baby taken away. Shame broadcast everywhere. But hunger was louder than fear. With one final effort, she hoisted herself to the top of the wall. For a split second, she balanced there, soaked and shaking, the world on one side and temptation on the other. She looked back once at the empty bus stop across the road, the place that had become her shelter, her shame, her prison. Then she swung her leg over and dropped quietly into the compound garden, landing on wet grass. The mansion loomed before her, magnificent and silent except for the distant hum of generators. Warm light spilled from the back windows. Clutching the edges of her wrapper tightly around her baby, Amaka moved toward the house, each step driven by a mother's desperate love. The grass felt softer than anything Amaka had stepped on in months. Even in the heavy rain, the compound smelled of trimmed hedges and imported flowers. Motion sensor lights flickered briefly as she hurried along the side of the mansion, freezing each time a beam passed over her soaked figure. Her heart pounded so violently she was sure the sound alone would betray her. She reached the back terrace and pressed herself against the wall. The rain was lighter here, shielded by the extended roof. Through the wide glass windows, she saw a long dining table covered in white linen and gold cutlery. Plates sat half-finished. Wine glasses glowed red under chandelier light. Laughter echoed faintly from another room deeper inside. Her throat tightened. Food. So much food. She crept toward what looked like the kitchen entrance. The back door was slightly ajar, probably left that way by catering staff moving in and out earlier. A thin line of light cut through the darkness. Amaka hesitated only a second before slipping inside. Warmth hit her immediately. It wrapped around her wet skin like an embrace she had forgotten existed. The kitchen was larger than her former apartment, with marble counters, stainless steel appliances, cupboards polished to perfection. On the island counter sat trays of jollof rice, grilled chicken, small chops, sliced fruit, and a large carton of unopened baby formula. Her knees nearly buckled. "Thank you, God," she whispered, tears mixing with rainwater still dripping from her face. She untied Chiamaka gently and laid her on a folded kitchen towel on the counter. The baby stirred weakly. Amaka's hand shook as she reached for the milk. She scanned the room frantically, spotting a kettle and a flask of warm water likely left for tea. She worked quickly, measuring clumsily, terrified every second. "Just a little longer, my love," she murmured. When the milk was ready, she lifted Chiamaka and pressed the bottle to her lips. For a breathless second, nothing happened. Then the baby latched on. The sound, small, desperate gulps, was the most beautiful sound Amaka had ever heard. She sobbed openly now, shoulders shaking. "Drink, drink, my angel." Chiamaka sucked greedily, tiny hands twitching as life returned to her movements. Color slowly crept back into her cheeks. Amaka wiped her tears with the back of her wrist and reached for a small plastic takeaway container sitting nearby. She scooped rice into it, added pieces of chicken, some fruit, wrapping everything tightly in a napkin. Only what she could carry discreetly. Nothing more. She was not greedy. She just needed survival. The milk bottle emptied. Chiamaka's eyelids drooped, satisfied for the first time in days. Relief flooded Amaka so powerfully she nearly collapsed. She secured the food bundle under her wrapper and lifted her baby again. "One day you will forgive me," she whispered softly. "One day you will understand." She turned toward the back door. The lights went out. Total darkness swallowed the kitchen. Amaka froze. A sharp click echoed from the doorway. Then the light snapped back on, brighter this time. Her breath caught in her throat. Standing at the entrance was a tall figure dressed in a crisp white kaftan, sleeves perfectly tailored, expression unreadable. His presence filled the room without effort. Behind him, two uniformed security guards stood alert, eyes wide. "Chief Tunde Adeyemi." The air seemed to thicken. Amaka's knees gave way instantly. She dropped to the tiled floor, clutching Chiamaka protectively. The container of rice slipped from her grasp and spilled slightly across the spotless marble. "I'm sorry, sir," she cried, her voice cracking. "Please, please forgive me. I didn't mean any harm." The guard stepped forward. "Should we call the police, sir?" one asked firmly. Amaka pressed her forehead to the floor. "Don't take my baby. Please?" "She hasn't eaten for 2 days. I only came for food. I swear I would never steal money. Just food." Silence followed. Heavy, suffocating silence. She dared not look up. "Where is the baby?" Chief Tunde's voice was calm, deep, unexpectedly steady. Amaka slowly raised her head, tears streaking her face. "Here, sir." She shifted slightly so he could see Chiamaka's face. The billionaire took a few slow steps forward. His polished sandals made soft sounds against the tile. He looked down at the child without speaking. His eyes, sharp and calculating at first, softened as they rested on the tiny sleeping face. "She was crying under the rain," Amaka whispered. "Nobody helped us. I didn't know what else to do." The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Chief Tunde crouched slightly, studying the baby more closely. He noticed the damp blanket, the thinness of the child's arms, the way her tiny fingers still clutched at Amaka's blouse even in sleep. "What is her name?" he asked. "Chiamaka, sir." He nodded faintly. One of the guards cleared his throat. "Sir, this is trespassing. Attempted theft." Chief Tunde did not take his eyes off the child. "And what exactly did she attempt to steal?" "Food, sir." He looked up then, slowly, at Amaka. His gaze was not angry. It was searching. "You climbed the wall in this storm?" "Yes, sir." "With the baby on your back?" "Yes, sir." He stood upright again, folding his arms behind him. The room felt smaller under his presence. "Why not beg at the gate?" "I have begged before," she replied quietly. "They chased me away." One of the guards shifted uncomfortably but remained silent. Chief Tunde walked past her toward the counter. He examined the milk bottle, the small portion of rice she had packed, the barely touched trays from dinner. He inhaled slowly, as though something long buried had surfaced. "How long since she ate?" 2 days, sir." He closed his eyes briefly. Amaka trembled. She expected shouting, insults, police sirens. Instead, he spoke in a low voice. "Leave us." The guards hesitated. "So?" "I said leave us." They obeyed immediately, stepping out and closing the door behind them. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant rumble of thunder. Chief Tunde moved toward the sink and washed his hands slowly, methodically. Then he reached for a clean cloth and handed it to Amaka. "Dry the baby properly," he said. Amaka blinked in disbelief. "Do you want her falling sick again?" he added, his tone firm but not cruel. She nodded quickly and obeyed, wiping Chiamaka gently. He pulled out a chair from the dining island and gestured toward it. "Sit." She hesitated, unsure if it was a trap. "Sit," he repeated. Amaka lowered herself carefully onto the chair, still clutching her child. Her entire body shook, not from cold now, but from confusion. Chief Tunde leaned against the counter, studying her. "What is your name?" "Amaka Okafor." "Age?" 26. "Where is your husband?" The question cut deep. "He left when I was pregnant." He nodded once, absorbing the information. Rain continued tapping lightly against the windows, but the storm had softened. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Chief Tunde asked quietly, "If I had not come to the kitchen tonight, what would you have done after taking the food?" "I would have left, sir," she answered immediately. "I swear on my child's life." He believed her. That much was visible in his eyes. He walked toward the doorway and paused, as though wrestling with something internal and heavy. When he turned back to her, his expression had changed. "Bring them inside properly," he called out to someone beyond the door. Footsteps approached again. The guards reappeared, confusion written across their faces. "Prepare the guest sitting room," Chief Tunde said calmly. "And tell the housekeeper to bring dry clothes and warm blankets." The guard stared, stunned. "So? Now?" Amaka's breath caught. She looked up at him in disbelief as the guards moved quickly to obey. Chief Tunde met her gaze directly. "You will not leave tonight," he said. "Not in this rain." The guest sitting room was larger than any space Amaka had ever slept in. Cream-colored sofas curved around a glass center table. A chandelier shimmered overhead like trapped stars. The air smelled faintly of vanilla and polished wood. It felt unreal, like stepping into someone else's dream. Amaka sat stiffly on the edge of the sofa, Chiamaka bundled in a soft white towel the housekeeper had provided. The baby was asleep again, her stomach finally full, her breathing steady and peaceful. Amaka kept checking her chest rise and fall, afraid the comfort might disappear if she blinked too long. Chief Tunde stood near the fireplace, hands clasped behind his back. He had changed from his dinner attire into a simple dark carton. Without the earlier sharp formality, he seemed less like a distant billionaire and more like a man carrying something heavy inside him. A tray of tea and warm food was placed before Amaka. She stared at it uncertainly. "Eat," he said quietly. She hesitated. "Sir." "I." "Eat," he repeated, firmer this time. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the spoon. The first bite felt strange, almost painful, as though her body had forgotten what nourishment felt like. Tears blurred her vision again. She lowered the spoon and covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Chief Tunde watched her silently for a moment, then spoke. "Hunger humbles a person in ways pride never can." Amaka swallowed. "Yes, sir." He walked slowly to the window, looking out at the fading rain. "Do you know why I was in the kitchen tonight?" She shook her head. "I rarely attend the dinners held in this house. Tonight was an exception. Investors from Abuja." He paused. "I stepped away because I dislike waste. I wanted to ensure the leftovers were stored properly." Amaka's chest tightened. Shame washed over her again. He turned toward her, his eyes distant now, almost haunted. 25 years ago, my mother stole bread." The words landed softly but carried weight. Amaka looked up, surprised. "We lived in a one-room shack in Mushin," he continued. "My father died when I was 5. My mother sold akara by the roadside. One week, business was bad. Very bad. I remember her skipping meals so I could eat. One night, I woke up and she was gone." He walked back toward the sofa but did not sit. She returned with a loaf of bread hidden in her wrapper. "I was too young to question it. I just ate." His jaw tightened. The next morning, 2 men came to our house. They dragged her outside. The shop owner had caught her on camera. His voice grew quieter. They beat her in front of everyone. Amaka gasped softly. She survived that night. But something inside her broke. She stopped speaking much after that. Shame consumed her. He looked down at his hands. She died 2 years later. Fever. No proper medical care. Silence filled the room. Amaka's tears fell freely now. Not for herself, but for the small boy he once was. Chief Tunde finally sat opposite her. I remember her eyes when they beat her. Not anger. Not fear. Just desperation. He studied Chiamaka's sleeping face. "When I saw you in my kitchen tonight, I did not see a thief." He exhaled slowly. "I saw my mother." Amaka lowered her gaze, unable to hold his eyes. "I am sorry, sir." "Stealing is wrong," he said calmly. "There are laws. There is order." She nodded quickly. "I know, sir. And actions have consequences." Her fingers tightened around the baby instinctively. The warmth in the room suddenly felt fragile. But, he continued, justice without compassion becomes cruelty. Amaka looked up slowly. He leaned back into the sofa, studying her carefully. "Tell me everything." She hesitated at first, but something in his tone invited honesty. She spoke of her job at St. Catherine's Hospital, of Chiamaka's pneumonia, of unpaid bills and termination letters, of eviction notices, of sleeping at the bus stop while pretending each night that things would improve by morning. She spoke of begging at traffic lights and being insulted. Of people rolling up tinted windows as if poverty were contagious. "I tried to sell pure water," she added softly. "But the area boys took most of the money." Chief Tunde listened without interruption. Not once did he check his phone or glance away. When she finished, the room felt heavy with truth. He stood and paced slowly. "Do you have any family?" "None who can help," she replied. "My parents are gone. My elder brother moved to Ghana years ago. We lost contact." He stopped pacing. "What if I told you I could send you to prison for tonight?" Her heart pounded again. "I would accept it, sir." He raised an eyebrow. You would? Yes. She swallowed hard. But please, let someone care for my baby. There was no performance in her answer. No manipulation. Just raw surrender. Chief Tunde nodded once, as if confirming something privately. You are not going to prison, he said. Amaka blinked rapidly. So? You will not be handed over to the police. Relief flooded her so suddenly she nearly collapsed forward. But this does not mean you walk away unchanged, he added. She straightened, bracing herself. I run a foundation, he continued. It funds community housing, food programs, small business grants. Most people think it is just for publicity. They are wrong. He moved closer, standing directly in front of her now. You need stability. Your child needs security. I can offer both. Her breathing slowed as hope crept cautiously into her chest. You will work, he said firmly. Not as a servant. As staff. Administrative support at one of our community kitchens in Ajagunl. Her eyes widened. Ajagunl? Yes. You know the environment. She nodded slowly. You will be paid. You will have temporary accommodation provided by the foundation. Amaka felt dizzy. It sounded too big, too sudden. Why? She whispered. He held her gaze steadily. Because someone once had the chance to show my mother mercy and did not. Her tears returned, unstoppable. He continued, this is not charity. You will work hard. You will report daily. If you prove unreliable, the opportunity ends. I will not fail, she said quickly, voice shaking. We shall see, he replied calmly. He stepped back slightly. For tonight, you and your child will stay here. Tomorrow morning, my assistant will arrange documentation and placement. Amaka could barely process his words. The bus stop. The rain. The hunger. It all felt like another lifetime already. Chiamaka stirred gently in her arms and let out a soft sigh of contentment. Chief Tunde's expression softened again at the sound. Rest, he said quietly. You both have survived enough for one night. Morning light filtered gently through tall cream curtains, painting the guest room in soft gold. For a moment, Amaka did not remember where she was. The mattress beneath her was too comfortable. The air smelled too clean. There was no honking traffic, no shouting street vendors, no cold concrete beneath her back. Then Chiamaka stirred beside her, wrapped in a fluffy white blanket, and memory rushed in. The mansion. The kitchen. The billionaire. Amaka sat up quickly, her heart racing. It hadn't been a dream. A neatly folded set of clothes lay on a chair nearby, are simple but elegant. A baby cot stood beside the bed, newly assembled overnight. Someone had even placed a small teddy bear inside it. Her throat tightened. There was a soft knock on the door. Yes, she answered cautiously. A middle-aged woman in a neat uniform stepped inside with a warm but reserved smile. Good morning. My name is Mrs. Deceit. I oversee the household. Good morning, Ma, Amaka replied respectfully, adjusting her wrapper. Chief asked that you freshen up and join him for breakfast. Breakfast? The word still felt foreign. Thank you, Ma. Within 30 minutes, Amaka was dressed in the provided clothes, a modest blue gown that fit her surprisingly well. Chiamaka wore a tiny yellow onesie that made her look like sunshine. The baby seemed stronger already, her eyes more alert as she gazed around the unfamiliar room. Mrs. Deceit led them downstairs into a spacious dining area bathed in morning light. Chief Tunde sat at the head of the table, reading a newspaper. He looked up as they approached. Good morning, he said calmly. Good morning, sir, Amaka replied. He gestured to a seat. Sit. She obeyed, settling carefully while balancing Chiamaka on her lap. Plates of food were arranged neatly, toast, eggs, fruit, pap, tea. It felt surreal. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "Yes, sir." He nodded once and folded his newspaper. "Today we begin properly." She straightened slightly, attentive. "My assistant will arrive shortly. She will take your details, arrange identification, and assign you temporary accommodation under the foundation." Amaka swallowed. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't," he replied evenly. "You work." The firmness in his tone grounded her. This was not pity. This was opportunity. As they ate in silence for a few moments, Chiamaka babbled softly, gripping Chief Tunde's finger when he cautiously extended it across the table. He froze at the unexpected contact. "She is strong," he murmured. "She is stubborn," Amaka said shyly. "Like her mother." For the first time, a faint smile touched his lips. A woman in a fitted blazer entered shortly after. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Adiz," he replied. "This is Amaka Okafor." Adiz's eyes flickered briefly with curiosity but no judgment. "Nice to meet you." "You will process her under the Ajagun Community Kitchen Program," Chief Tunde continued. "Immediate placement." "Yes, sir." He turned to Amaka. "You will report to the kitchen tomorrow at 8 a.m. Today is for paperwork and settling in." She nodded repeatedly. "I won't disappoint you." His expression grew serious again. "Listen carefully, Amaka." She met his gaze. "What happened last night does not leave this house. Not for publicity. Not for gossip. You were not rescued. You were recruited. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." He leaned back slightly. "People must earn their dignity." "I will," she said firmly. After breakfast, Adiz escorted Amaka to a modest but clean apartment owned by the foundation in Suryalia. It had one bedroom, a small living area, a kitchenette, and running water. To Amaka, it felt like a palace. She stepped inside slowly, almost afraid to breathe. "This is temporary housing for staff in transition," Adiz explained. "Your salary will begin at the end of the month. There are performance reviews every quarter." Amaka listened carefully to every word. "And Amaka," Adiz added gently, "Chief does not give second chances lightly." "I know," she replied softly. When Adiz left, silence settled over the apartment. Amaka placed Chiamaka on the small couch and walked slowly around the room, touching the walls as though confirming they were real. She opened the kitchen cupboard, empty for now, but it was hers to fill. She turned on the tap just to watch water flow freely. Then she sank to her knees and cried. Not the broken sobs of desperation from the night before, but deep, grateful tears. "Thank you," she whispered into the quiet room. The next morning, she arrived at the Ajagun Community Kitchen 15 minutes early. The building was modest but well organized, painted in bright colors. Women stirred large pots over industrial burners. Volunteers packaged meals into takeaway containers. Children lined up outside patiently. A supervisor named Musa greeted her with a firm handshake. "You are the new admin staff?" "Yes." "Good. We start immediately." There was no special treatment. No red carpet. She was shown how to log food inventory, track daily distributions, and manage supply records. It was structured, demanding work. At first, some of the other workers eyed her curiously. She looked too fragile, too recently rescued. But Amaka worked with quiet determination. She arrived early each day and left only after ensuring records were complete. During breaks, she helped package meals. When a mother came with a crying child, Amaka knelt to comfort them without being asked. Weeks passed. Her hands, once trembling with fear, now moved confidently across paperwork and storage lists. Chiamaka stayed at a small daycare sponsored by the foundation during working hours, growing healthier and more energetic by the day. One afternoon, Chief Tunde visited the kitchen unexpectedly. The staff straightened instantly at his arrival. Amaka froze briefly when she saw him enter, but she forced herself to remain composed. He observed quietly as meals were distributed, as records were checked, as volunteers coordinated. His eyes eventually landed on her. "How is the transition?" he asked calmly. "It is good, sir," she replied respectfully. Musa stepped forward. "She works hard. Very precise." Chief Tunde nodded once. "Good." Before leaving, he paused beside her desk. "Remember," he said quietly, "this opportunity was not given because you were weak." She looked up. "It was given because you were strong enough to risk everything for your child." Emotion flickered in her eyes, but she held steady. "I will keep proving it, sir." As he walked away, Amaka felt something new settle in her chest. Not fear. Not desperation. Purpose. 6 months changed everything. The woman who once trembled on a marble kitchen floor now walked with quiet confidence through the bustling halls of the Ajagunal community kitchen. Amaka's shoulders were straighter. Her voice carried calm authority. Her eyes, once clouded by fear, now held focus. She had earned it. Every morning, she arrived before 7:30 a.m., reviewed supply logs, checked delivery schedules, and ensured nothing went to waste. She introduced a simple tracking system that reduced food spoilage. She suggested partnering with nearby markets for discounted produce nearing expiration dates. Musa had raised an eyebrow at first, but when the numbers improved, he nodded with respect. "Where did you learn all this?" he once asked. Amaka smiled faintly. "When you don't have enough, you learn to measure everything." Chiamaka was thriving too. Her cheeks were round again. She had begun crawling, chasing after plastic spoons and squealing with delight at the smallest things. The daycare staff adored her. Whenever Amaka picked her up in the evenings, the baby reached eagerly for her mother, as if confirming that this life, this stability, was real. But growth did not come without whispers. Some staff members knew only that Amaka had been recruited directly by Chief Tunde. They did not know the full story, but assumptions filled the gaps. "She must know someone important," one volunteer muttered one afternoon. "Or maybe she has a powerful sponsor," another suggested quietly. Amaka heard fragments. She chose silence over defense. She had learned that dignity sometimes required endurance. One humid Thursday afternoon, a minor crisis struck. A major rice supplier failed to deliver 200 bags promised for weekend distribution. Without that shipment, over 500 families would leave empty-handed. Musa paced the storage room anxiously. "We can't fix this in one day." Amaka's mind raced. She studied the inventory sheets carefully. "How many bags do we have left?" 80. She calculated quickly. "If we reduce individual portions slightly and supplement with beans and gari, we can stretch it." "That won't be enough." She paused, thinking deeper. Then her eyes lit slightly. "What about the Mile 12 cooperative? They sometimes sell bulk at short notice." Musa frowned. "They prefer upfront payment. We have emergency reserve funds, don't we?" He hesitated. "Yes, but approval." "I'll call the Ds," Amaka said firmly. Within an hour, after careful explanations and number projections, the foundation authorized emergency funds. Amaka personally accompanied a small truck to secure the rice from Mile 12 that evening. She negotiated respectfully but confidently. By Saturday morning, the distribution went smoothly. Not a single family was turned away. When Chief Tunde reviewed the weekly report, he noticed the supplier disruption and the solution. He summoned Musa and Amaka to the Foundation headquarters on Victoria Island. Amaka felt her pulse quicken as she entered the sleek conference room. The last time she had crossed into this part of the city during a storm, she had been climbing a wall. Now she walked through the front entrance. Chief Tunde sat at the head of the polished table. Several board members were present, men and women in tailored suits, laptops open. "Good afternoon," he said evenly. "Good afternoon, sir," they responded. He glanced at the report in front of him. "The rice shortage." "Explain." Musa began outlining the problem, but Chief Tunde raised a hand gently. "I would like to hear from Amaka." All eyes shifted to her. Her throat tightened briefly, but she steadied herself. "The supplier defaulted on delivery, sir. I reviewed inventory and adjusted portion calculations to maintain coverage. I proposed sourcing from Mile 12 Cooperative and obtained emergency approval." She spoke clearly, without exaggeration. A board member leaned forward. "You negotiated directly?" "Yes, Ma." "And ensured budget compliance?" "Yes, Ma." Chief Tunde watched her carefully, his expression unreadable. After a pause, he nodded once. "Well handled." Relief washed through her, but she remained composed. The meeting shifted to other agenda items: expansion plans, funding allocations, community partnerships. Amaka listened quietly, absorbing information she once believed belonged to another world. Then Chief Tunde cleared his throat. "There is one more matter." The room fell silent. "Our foundation has operated food programs successfully for years. But food is temporary relief. Housing creates long-term stability." He stood slowly, walking toward the large screen at the front of the room. A digital rendering appeared, a modest but well-structured housing complex designed for single mothers and their children. Clean lines. Safe playground. Shared learning center. "We will be launching a new housing initiative in partnership with state authorities." Murmurs filled the room. It was ambitious. Expensive. Bold. A board member asked, "Who will oversee implementation?" Chief Tunde turned slowly. Amaka felt something shift in the air. He met her eyes directly. "The project director will be Amaka Okafor." Silence exploded into stunned disbelief. Musa's mouth fell open slightly. Several board members exchanged glances. One man spoke cautiously. "Sir, with respect, she is relatively new." "Yes," Chief Tunde replied calmly. "And uniquely qualified." Another voice, "This is a multi-million naira initiative." "Exactly," he said. "It requires someone who understands the weight of instability, not from statistics, but from experience." All eyes returned to Amaka. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared they could hear it. "Sir," she began, unsure what to say. He stepped closer to her, lowering his voice slightly but ensuring the room could still hear. "You once stood outside my gate in the rain. Today, you stand inside this boardroom because you chose responsibility when given opportunity." Emotion threatened to overwhelm her, but she held firm. "This role will demand discipline, leadership, and integrity," he continued. "Can you carry it?" She inhaled deeply. Images flashed through her mind: the bus stop, the storm, Chiamaka's weak cry. "Yes, sir," she said steadily. "I can." The board remained silent for a moment longer before slow, cautious nods began to spread around the table. Chief Tunde extended his hand. After a brief hesitation, she shook it. "You stole food," he said quietly, just loud enough for her to hear. "But you returned something greater." She blinked. "So?" "My humanity." Months later, the housing complex stood complete on a modest parcel of land in Soyalia. Fresh paint gleamed under the afternoon sun. Children's laughter filled the playground. 20 units housed women who once slept in churches, under bridges, and at bus stops. Amaka stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, dressed simply but elegantly. Chiamaka, now toddling confidently, clung to her leg before darting toward the swings. Chief Tunde stepped beside her as applause echoed around them. "Look at what strength built," he said softly. Amaka watched her daughter laugh freely, safe and full. The same hands that once climbed a wall, she replied quietly, now build walls that protect others. He nodded. There were no cameras focusing on her past. No speeches about theft. Only a celebration of new beginnings. As the ribbon fell and families entered their new homes, Amaka felt something settle fully within her. That night of hunger had not defined her. It had redirected her. Sometimes the crime is not the end of the story. Sometimes it is the beginning of a miracle.